When we started writing our thoughts down on paper, it opened up endless possibilities. Ideas could grow beyond the borders of the mind, and it changed the world. Somewhere along the way, we lost touch with paper, distracted by devices made for every purpose except for thinking and focus. On edge, waiting for the next notification. But what if new technology didn't pull us away from paper, but brought us closer to it? Listen. That's not paper. It's the sound of the new Remarkable Paper Pro, rewriting the future. A paper tablet with a true color ink display, gentle reading light, and unheard of tactility. With digital features for taking notes, thinking, and organizing, without any distractions. Paper is about to change the world again. Get your paper tablet at remarkable.com today.
UTIs are the worst. I've been there. One year, I had 8 UTIs. If you get UTIs, then you understand how awful the cycle can be. I was taking all the precautions, and cranberry products, they just never worked for me. I was desperate for a way to be proactive. It was hard on me and on my husband.
It was tough to see her in pain, and I wanted to help.
I'm Jenna.
And I'm Spencer.
With Spencer's background in biochemistry
and our shared frustration when it came to UTIs, we were inspired to start Eucora.
At Eucora, we make innovative urinary tract supplements and UTI relief products. Our effective urinary tract supplements finally give you a way to be proactive.
Feel like you've tried everything? We get it. We have a money-back guarantee so you can try risk-free. If you're not happy, you'll get a full refund.
We're on a mission to help women get their lives back. Ready to join them?
Get 30% off Eucora when you go to eucora.com/audio. That's UQORA.com/audio.
To be fair, in that golden black, in the halcyon days of the golden age of the 70s, you were second to no one, but in essence, in appearances, you were second all-time appearances to Derek Parkin, wasn't you?
Yeah, that's right. I would have beat him actually if I hadn't done all his running for him and got more injuries than him. But Derek was he was a superb player, great fullback, and a pleasure and an honour to play in front of him for so many years. So if there was going to be a challenge for how many games you're going to get beat by, then I'm quite happy that Derek did it.
And he only beat you in terms of appearances by about half a season.
Yeah, I broke my leg, which locked me back for a while. But he also had a period out of the game when he had this heart problem. He had a murmur that he caught in training, and so he came back strong after that. But he missed a few games as well. But that was never an issue about how many games you're going to play. We all had a target before the season kicked off. Every player tried to play every game that came along, trying to avoid injuries, obviously, but to try and play every League Cup game, every FA Cup game, and every league game. That was always our target. So if you got over 40 appearances in, then you'd had a pretty good season. So that was a good way of looking at it from the player's point of view.
And it was 1968 in the November that you joined. Derek joined in the February of the same year. So you've got a book out now, Seasons in My Life, which does coincide with 50 years of joining the old Gold and Black. It
does, this month. 50 years this month. I don't know the exact date, but Ronnie Allen signed me, and he was sacked within 3 days. So I was his last signing, and but I never had the pleasure of working with him. It's 50 years. I can't get my head around it. Really can't. It's gone so quickly.
I've got no idea. Ronnie scouted up Big Cyril as well for the Albion.
All right. Okay.
Yeah, I'm sure he did, because Ronnie Allen was a wonderful inside forward of the Baggies, and when you were growing up, Wolverhampton Wanderers were the biggest club in England, and to join that club, you must have, for the youngsters today, they were the Manchester City of the 50s, wasn't they, Wolves?
Oh, I think so. From where I was in Bradford, at the Park Avenue, Yes, Wolves was the first team to play teams from in Europe. They were friendly games, but they, on Ved and Spartak and all them, they won the FA Cup, they won the league, so they were a massive club. And I remember seeing them on television, although it was a black and white television I was looking at. They had this dark-looking kit on with, and they looked powerful and strong. And so I always had a feeling for Wolves, and yet, later when I turned 17, I had the opportunity to join them. But geographically, I didn't know where it was. I didn't know where they were. And when I got on the train to come down and sign for Wolves, I didn't know where I was going to end up. I wasn't the best at school on geography, but and every time it stopped the train, I wanted to get off and go home because my dad had just died when I was 16, and I didn't want to leave my mum and my sister alone. But every time there was something pushing me, and I think that was my dad. And you know what? I'm so glad I stayed on that train that day and didn't get off and go back home because Wolves gave me a wonderful playing career, and they treated me really, really well. And it was hard work to start with because as a 17-year-old going into digs, living away from home from the first time, it was pretty tough, and it took me a while to settle down. But the senior players at Wolves, Dugan Bailey, Wagstaff, Dougie Woodfield, they all looked after us, and I have to thank them for putting their arm around me and making me welcome, and that's what they did on the first day. But I was shocked. I was shocked 3 days after signing that the manager Ronnie had left. But Bill McGarry came in, and I didn't really have time to work with Ronnie. But Bill, there weren't many senior players liked him. There weren't a lot of the youngsters liked him. But what we did do, we respected him, and because he made like myself, Daly, Richards, Palmer, Sunderland, half-decent players, Barry Powell. So, you have to respect that, and he gave us all a chance. And so he did a remarkable job in the 7 years he was there.
That's the sign of a great player as well, Ken. The modesty, half-decent players. That team, I mean, yeah. Bill McGarry and like you say, Ronnie Allen before, built something special. Almost out of the ashes, really, of that 50s team, because when you have a great team like the Wolves were, you have a period of transition, and then together grouped a fantastic unit of players that served Wolverhampton fantastically well throughout that 70s period, because you were almost the same number 1 to 11, wasn't you?
Yeah, that's right. It was the same. It seems like a squad of players picked every Friday, and with Phil Parks and Palmer, Parkin, Munro, McCall, which was the great back four. Then in midfield, Mike Bailey and Jim McCalliog, myself, all fighting for that place. And then Dugan, Richards, and Wagstaff were the front three, and that stayed together for some time. And I think that was a good sign, really, because if you got a solid team that playing with each other week in, week out, you get to know each other's game, and the spirit and the camaraderie is second to none, and that's what we had. We had that in abundance in the dressing room. It was great fun, and we had great time. But we all pulled each other around and helped each other and supported each other. But I was talking to some Swedish Wolves supporters on Sunday, and when I named that team I've just sort of read out to you, they all nodded their heads, and that's the team that they remember as one of the most successful teams that they saw.
Now, you were successful because in 1974 you won the League Cup, and if memory serves me right, was there not 5 players also that won the League Cup in 1980? And where I'm trying to get to is the money that was spent by Wolves then was spent very, very wisely and very, very well. And almost every player that they bought would have got 400-500 almost appearances out of every one of them.
Yeah, that's right. We were very shrewd, and they didn't have a great deal of money to spend. But when you bring players in like Andy Gray in '79. We lost a great player in Steve Daly to Man City. I thought that was a great replacement. He was so infectious in the club, in the dressing room, and I'm glad he was on our side on a Saturday. And it was a great signing. And yeah, there's several players that sort of we had a sticky spell in mid-70s where we got relegated but came back as champions. Nobody wanted to leave the club. We just wanted to get back into the first division. We was the numbers or the players that took us down, so we all wanted to get them back, which we did. And then in '79, as I say, and then in '80 we brought Emlyn Hughes in, and he captained us to triumph in the League Cup in 1980 against Nottingham Forest, who was European champions at the time. So yeah, we had players there that continued to play. John Richards played, lots and lots of games with myself and Palmer. All youngsters came through together with Bill McGarry, and yeah, and it was a wonderful era for us, and it's something that we talk about quite a lot when we get together.
Well, we're talking about promotion and champions. I remember as a kid, because it was 1977, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And I remember seeing all the Wolves players on the pitch, and, because, again, it was a great time, not just for you guys playing in the 70s. I always say the halcyon days of the golden decade. But as a fan growing up in the 70s, it was wonderful to watch, because it was free-flowing football on awful pitches at times, but you made the best out of it. And no more than at that game, the last game of the season, on the 14th of May, 1977. And as a kid, where I'm trying to get to, Kenny, is that I didn't realise how damn important that goal that you scored that day was in British football, not just for Wolverhampton Wanderers.
You'll have to... which game was that again? Who was that again?
Bolton. It was the game where you and Willie Carr, because
the Bolton game, I've got you.
Yeah, he'd already done the donkey kick with.
Yes, yeah. Well, that was a mistake. I mean, we tried to do that when I said I'll run over the ball, pull to the side of the wall, and chip it over.
Yeah.
Because it's easy to hit a dead ball, and it is a ball that's rolling away from you.
Yeah.
But as I jumped over it, I caught it with my foot, and so the ball, Billy went to hit it, he had to check, and then as the ball's running away from him, how he got that up and down over the wall, I keep asking him now, and he said, I don't know, he might have hit a bobble or a mud patch or something, and lift, so I can get my foot under it. And it came over the top, and then I volleyed it in. The keeper got a piece of it, but the power of it went, took it into the corner. But yeah, it was something we worked on. But having touched the ball, that was not worked on. And but Willie did was wonderful. And a great player, Willie Carr. Willie was a super player.
Because I wondered, I've watched that time and time again, and he just pats you on the back, don't he? Say, go on, some. And then he stops, and the Bolton players come at him, and then he gives it, and actually stopping like that could have made you run onside, and you were just about level when you hit the ball with your left foot, and as you say, the goalie got something on it.
Yeah.
But that ultimately, that goal promoted Nottingham Forest, who went on to make football history.
It did, absolutely right. And the manager of Bolton, Ian Greaves, who eventually came to Wolves and managed us for the last 3 or 4 months of that one season later on, quite reminded me and Willie about that game. He gave us a right roasting because they missed out on the promotion. But it did help Nottingham Forest get promotion, and then they went on from there. And as you say, they had a fantastic time after that. I did ask Brian Cloughie to send me a bottle of champagne for scoring that goal, but I never got it.
Now, you would have thought Cloughie, or certainly the directors at Nottingham Forest, would have given you something.
I read about it, and Cloughie had actually said to him, "Forget what Wolves have done. You've done this yourselves. You didn't need any help from anybody, but they did, and they got it from us. But that's what Brian was like. He was a top manager that supported his team so well, and he said you've done it on your own accord, not helped by another team. Yeah, I think we did it later on as well. Some capacity helped them again.
Yeah, because, I mean, literally they were on the beach or they were in the air.
That's right, they were in Spain, weren't they? That's right.
On the plane, ready to go to Mallorca.
Yeah.
and the pilot announced that you've just been promoted to the first.
Is that right? I didn't realise that.
Yeah, because there's a great film called I Believe in Miracles by Johnny Owen. And you were actually on that with that goal, Wolverhampton Wanderers.
Oh, right, okay.
It's a great film if ever you want to go and have a look at it.
Yeah, never seen that, never heard of that one. No,
Another brilliant season in your life, and I think for the Hibbitt family even more so, was 1974 when both you and Terry got to cup finals at Wembley.
Well, that was, as kids growing up, that was both. That's what we wanted to do in football, was to play one at Wembley, because we'd seen so many FA Cup finals over the years. And then winning the World Cup in '66, and my idol Bobby Charlton playing in that as well. Our target was to play at Wembley, irrespective of what it may be in. It was just a matter of walking out down the tunnel, which we'd seen every year in cup finals. And I went to watch the first cup final in '68, I think it was, when West Brom beat Everton 1-0 when Jeff Hassel scored. I was there at that game. That was my first ever trip to Wembley. And I just looked at them walking out, having seen them line up, before the kick-off, and then seeing the captain walking up the steps and collecting the cup and getting it presented to them, then running around. That was our dream. And in '74, it happened. Fortunately, I was on the winning side, and unfortunately, Terry was on the losing side. But my mother went to both cup finals, and she never thought that would ever happen. And she saw me score in the 43rd minute, the first goal against Man City, but never saw the second half because she just kept looking up at the scoreboard, and seeing Hibbitt in lights, which she'd never seen before. And of course, tears was in her eyes, and she spent the next 45 minutes just with looking up at the board, And unfortunately, when Terry went, she was asking Terry to emulate what I'd done, score a goal, but they got beat 3-0, and it didn't turn out right for them. But that '74 was a dream that our dreams came true, and we both were fortunate enough to play in the League Cup final and the FA Cup final in the same year.
A great friend of the show and mine personally, Sean Caden, who's out there in Australia. Yeah, big Leeds fan, says, was there any talk of you joining Terry at Leeds United?
When I was a kid, when I played for Bradford Boys and Yorkshire Boys, there was a lot of interest from Leeds and the Sheffield clubs, most of the Yorkshire clubs, but I didn't really want to go to Leeds at the time because at that time I'd be competing with Terry, and I didn't want to see that. And I said to my dad, if I want to go forward and I want to start at the bottom. I said, Dad, I want to start at the bottom, and if I'm not good enough, it don't look too bad. But I want to, because in them days, if you were given a free transfer, it was so detrimental to you. You just didn't want to go home to your family, your friends, or anything like that. But I was afraid. I started at the bottom and I worked my way up, and it don't look too bad then if you dismissed as a 4th division apprentice. But and then later on, I think it was when Alan Clark was manager at Leeds. Wayne Clark was playing for us at Wolves. He said Alan was interested in taking me to Leeds at that time. So there was really 2 opportunities to go to Leeds, and I was a Leeds fan because of Terry was there, and then I became a Newcastle fan when Terry went to Newcastle, and I became a Birmingham fan when he went to Birmingham. So we were very close, me and our kid, and I miss him so much now. And it was him and Don Revie that actually told me to go when I left Bradford to go to Wolves in '68. It was Don Revie that said to Terry, "You tell your brother Kenny he has to go." So he was an influence on my decision to join Wolves, but. Leeds were a massive club, massive.
Now we're going to still briefly talk about the 1974 League Cup final because it was one of your finest hours, and I'm guessing you perhaps not so much your best goal, but your most important goal and your most cherished and loved goal.
Absolutely,
because
without
of what it stands for.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, when you're looking at the other end of the pitch, Phil was usually in goal, but a lad named Gary Pearce played in goal that day. And I remember a performance in '73 in October by Jan Tomaszewski. Now, Gary Pearce, some 6 months after, played for Wolverhampton Wanderers and had the game of his life. I don't know where he come from, but he was superb, wasn't he?
Yeah, you've described that very well, Gabby, because he was like Tomaszewski. He stopped everything that was thrown at him. He was unbelievable. He was the best goalkeeping performance I think I've ever seen. And fortunately, he was behind our team, and it was just incredible. I don't know. I mean, I saw him not long ago, and we still talk about it. And he loves it. He loves people talking about that performance. And if you watch at the end, Gabby, at the end of the game, we've won, and you've got Bill McGaddy with his sheepskin coat on. He runs on the field, and Jeff Palmer, he's running right at Jeff, and Jeff puts his arms out to get a big hug, and he runs straight past him. and he ran straight to Gary Pearce and shook his hands so strong because he knew the performance he gave helped us win that cup on that day. He was outstanding. And great support from our defence as well, because Man City had so many top players, and they had a lot of the ball and a lot of chances that put it into the box. And our defence was brilliant, and but Gary was outstanding. It was the best performance I've seen from a goalkeeper. I felt a little bit sad for Phil Parks, because he was a terrific keeper, had an injury and missed the cup final. But I know Phil very, very, very well. Big friend of mine, and he just held his hand up and said, hey, that was one of the best goalkeeper performances he'd seen as well.
Yeah, I mean, I was a 9-year-old kid watching that, and obviously hoping that Wolverhampton Wanderers were going to win, because they're a Midland club. In them days, we didn't we? Before we had the football rivalry and our mates, when we start against the bigger school and start hammering, so we dislike them because we want them to lose and us to win. And then when you get into your 50s, Ken, you almost come full circle, and you want to love everyone again.
Of course,
it's bizarre.
Absolutely. You know, I love playing against local teams, and they used to say that there was always this animosity between. There was none of that whatsoever. We all shared a drink after the game. You know, whether it was Birmingham, Villa, West Brom. You know, anybody that we play against, Forest, Leicester, all the Midland clubs, they were all. No, I didn't see it anyway. It may have gone on, but I never noticed it. And I thought the camaraderie amongst the players was great, amongst all of us, the Midland players.
But what brilliant group of Midland players, East and West, we had in the 70s. You could have picked an England team just from them probably 6 or 7 clubs, couldn't you?
Yes, you could. Without a shadow of a doubt. Every team in the Midlands had good players, strong players, class players, hard players. And every game we played against the local lads was always a tough one. We loved going down to London and taking points off the London clubs, but the Midland lads, definitely, you've got it right there, Gabby, that they could have picked an England side out of them.
Now, there was in 1975, I believe it was, because it was in memory of the Birmingham pub bombings, there was a game, an England 11 versus a Midland Select 11. Do you remember that game, Kenny?
I remember it, but I don't think I played in it.
It was at St Andrews, definitely at St Andrews.
It was at St Andrews. I'm not sure I played in that game.
I'm amazed that you didn't. I'm amazed that you
didn't. No, I played in Malcolm Page's testimonial. I remember Malcolm, but I don't think I played in that game. No, I didn't. I would remember if I did. A game you did play, and it was your debut, was
your full league debut, wasn't it? Because your debut come against the Albion, where you come on, but your first start was Chelsea away, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's right. I came on the last 10 minutes at Molineux. It was the only time I was on the pitch at the same time as Peter Knowles before he retired. And then my full debut was down at Chelsea. Yeah, and teeming down the rain, absolutely battered down as we came down the tunnel onto the field. And before we kicked off, I mean, there was puddles of water on the pitch all over the place. And then a corner came in, and Peter Bonetti came out for it, punched it to the edge of the box, and I just drilled it in bottom corner on the left foot. That was, again, an amazing feeling. Not because I'd scored, but because there I was playing in the first division, and somewhere like Chelsea. It was just incredible feeling, and I didn't sleep for 2 days. I kept thinking about the goal and the enjoyment that I had. We drew 2-2 in the end, but I'll never forget that one.
Famed for drilling a ball. Was that something that you took from your hero, Bobby Charlton?
Bobby, yeah, absolutely. I used to watch England play. I'm a big England fan, and I used to love the way he glided with the ball and way he smacked 25-yarders in the top corner with left foot and his right foot. And I was always out on the field with Terry. We were both using both feet, but hours and hours and hours and hours, all day long, nearly every day. Every day of our holidays, we were out there with the ball, and I was always Bobby Charlton, yeah, always.
Peter Knowles, talk to me briefly about Peter, because you just referenced him. One of the all-time great Wolves players who went to play for Kansas City, found God and turned to the Jehovah's Witness faith, and almost, I mean, it wasn't overnight, but within a certain period of time, he just says, "I'm not playing football no more. I'm giving up," didn't he?
That's right. Came in the dressing room and he just said, "Stop swearing. I don't like to hear you swearing." And you said, "Oh, shut up, Knowles." You know, that's the way it was. Yeah. And he just decided that the time was up to stop playing football. But what a player he was. And he was a fantastic player. He used to take the mickey out of him in the gymnasium, spinning the ball back to him. He was sitting on the ball in match days. He was arrogant. He was clever. He was confident. He was a super player, and I would have loved to have played with him. And I think that Wolves lost a great player there, and also England, because I think he'd have played for England many times. But he regretted ever playing the game. He told me he regretted ever playing the game. That he used to kick people, and he didn't want that to happen. He didn't know where his life was going to take him if he'd have carried on playing, and he didn't like the feeling of that. And you've got to give him full marks here, Gabby. That he stayed. We thought he'd be back in 6 weeks, but he's now in. He's still doing the Jehovah's Witness. But you know, he's the most contented man I've ever met. He's such a lovely man, and he's quite happy. But it was a loss to football. It was a loss to Wolves, and it was a loss to England. And
he was that great as a player.
Wolves
kept his registration open for many years after he told him he's retired, didn't he?
Yeah, well, he had the same feeling as us. He had the same feeling that he'd be back, because he was such a great, and he knew he was a good player. That's why he was arrogant, but he was confident with it. And of course, the club thought he'd be back, but he never did. And they held that contract for some time after. And I would have done the same as well, because we wouldn't have wanted him to go anywhere else. But he would have been an absolute great player for us, no question.
And literally would have been one of, if he carried on, one of the all-time England greats.
Yep.
He was that good, wasn't he? It's just bizarre. Anyway, when people say about Peter Knowles, and the young kids will go today, who's Peter Knowles? One of the greatest players that we've ever had.
I know. And yet he was a very young man. I mean, he's still a young chap, but he had this, when he walked in the dressing room, he used to strut in there, shoulders sort of, he had such powerful, what's the word I'm looking for, presence, and you knew he was quality.
Yeah.
You just knew he was just a quality footballer, and you used to watch him play, and lovely touch, lovely silky passing, and the way he moved, oh gosh, he was brilliant. But, that's life, and that's the life he wanted, and that's the life he chosen, and he's a very, very happy, contented man.
Because another character that you had in them days was the Duke. I mean, Derek was different class, wasn't he? I think he had an ability to rub people up the wrong way. But
he did.
He was the first one that bought shirt sponsorship in 1976, didn't he?
He did, yeah. I mean, he wasn't he the PFA chairman for a while?
Yeah, well, yeah.
So he had he's quite an intelligent man. He wasn't that well liked from a few of the players, but I got on okay with him. I can't question him on that, because with the first day I arrived at Wolves, he was the only player to come up to me and shake my hands and wish me all the best. And he said two things, son. He said, listen and work hard, which I thought, wow, that's what my dad said. Yeah. You know, so I'll never forget that. And he was a quite a popular player, but unfortunately, he fell out with McGarry, the manager, and he fell out with one or two players. But on the field of play on a Saturday, he went out and did the business. Him and John Richards was a strike force that every club in them days had a pair. Yeah. Well, we had Richards and Dugan, and they were brilliant out on the pitch. Yeah, superb.
Again, you know, transferring that to modern day players. Yeah. Geez, you'd need a big bank balance to go. And
I don't think you could afford to buy. I don't think you could afford to buy Richards, that's for sure. Because he was young, strong, powerful, goal scorer, fantastic player, great lad. Still see him today. Big friends, never fell out. He was a terrific player. It'd be priceless.
And again, a player that received one England cap in 1973 against Northern Ireland. It's
correct. And where did he play him, Gabby? They played him on the wing.
England do, don't they? That's what England do. It's
I know.
Unbelievable.
It was.
I remember Big Ron talking about Laurie Cunningham, and he says, Laurie, watched him playing for England. How come you played like that? You don't play like that for me. And so I was told to play that way.
Exactly.
That's the thing. You get picked to play in a position, and then they want to play you out of position. I just think
exactly. You pick because you're putting the ball in the net, you know, on a regular basis. There's a striker, and then you say, well, we've got Shannon and we've got somebody else. I forget who they were around in them days. There's quite a few strikers, but you're going to play on the wing. Yeah. Well, play a winger then. Yeah. You know, if you're going to put me in the team, put me up front where his strengths are. And he did okay. John did all right, because when he first came to Wolves as a young kid from Warrington, he played in the rear, and he played on the right side. Yeah. But they actually played him, I think, on the left side. But you know, it was unfair, very unfair. And he should have had dozens and dozens of caps, because he was so strong and quick and sharp and brave. Put the ball in the box and he'd just knock it out of the way. He just eyes lit up, and he could put the ball in the net from any angle. And he was a fantastic player. Loved playing with him.
And you had some wonderful European adventures as well, didn't you, during those 70s times?
Well, you know, Gabby, I never dreamed I would be getting on planes and going to Turin and you know, Juventus and Ferencváros and playing behind the Iron Curtain at the time. It was just a dream that, you know, the furthest I went was Blackpool and Morecambe for the day when I was a kid. And there I am in 70, 71. Travelling all over Europe. It was just an incredible period for us, and beating all the top teams in Europe to get to the final.
Yeah. And then you play an English team.
And then we played an English club and got beat. I think AC Milan, or I think it was AC Milan that beat Tottenham in the semi-final. If we had beat Tottenham, I think we would have beaten AC Milan as well, because it was a two-legged final. And I remember the great John Charles took us, he looked after us when we went to Turin, when we played Juventus. And he said something like, if you get a result here, half the team won't bother to come over to England. Because none of these European players wanted to play against that's why we were so strong in Europe in them days. None of them wanted to come over here, because the game was so tough and so strong, and playing on the pitches we played on. I'm not saying they didn't have muddy pitches over there, wherever they are in Europe, but and we drew. And you know, about 4 or 5 of their players didn't turn up at Molineux. We beat them and got through to the final. So if it'd been in Milan and we'd have played over there in the first leg and got a half-decent result, then half their team would have come to England and played in the second, and we might have picked the cup up. So it's a funny one. It was a funny one, but it was a fantastic journey for me, personally.
And again, you know, Juventus.
Aye.
El Gigante, El Rey, the King, John Charles. I mean, how great a player was John Charles? There's a statue in Turin, isn't there?
That's right.
John, and even the Torino fans called John Charles the King. He was. He would have been second only to the Pope if it was.
Yes, well, he was. I mean, he took us round the shops. I mean, when we went the day shopping, we would buy some Italian shoes or something. Some of us could afford it, the senior ones, but those youngsters couldn't afford to buy them. But they used to bow to him. They used to get down and bow because as soon as he walked through the door, he was colossal over there. Absolutely colossal. Not just in stature, but in fame. He was, John Charles was the biggest thing that happened in Italy at that time, yeah.
And again, a player that kids of today, and what I want to do, what I'm doing in my 70s shows, is remembering the great players and those great days, because with the Premier League, it strikes me that they want to erase all of the...
UTIs are the worst. I've been there. One year, I had 8 UTIs. If you get UTIs, then you understand how awful the cycle can be. I was taking all the precautions, and cranberry products, they just never worked for me. I was desperate for a way to be proactive. It was hard on me and on my husband.
It was tough to see her in pain, and I wanted to help.
I'm Jenna.
And I'm Spencer.
With Spencer's background in biochemistry
and our shared frustration when it came to UTIs, we were inspired to start Eucora.
At Eucora, we make innovative urinary tract supplements and UTI relief products. Our effective urinary tract supplements finally give you a way to be proactive.
Feel like you've tried everything? We get it. We have a money-back guarantee so you can try risk-free. If you're not happy, you'll get a full refund.
We're on a mission to help women get their lives back. Ready to join them?
Get 30% off Eucora when you go to eucora.com/audio. That's UQORA.com/audio.
The most goals, most appearances, all the records, and it's all like what happened since 1992.
Yeah, well, I scored over 100 goals for Wolves, and my 100th goal was at Tottenham, and I didn't know that until I got down with Tim Nash, my writer, doing the book, and he said, "Do you know when you got your 100th goal?" I said, "No, I haven't got a clue." He said, "When you played at Tottenham. That's where you got your 100th goal." But now somebody gets the 100th goal, it's all over the place. Yeah. Everybody knows about it, and I'm not criticising that, but it's just the way that it's changed. Like you said, they seem to be Premier League appearances, Premier League goals, Premier League this, Premier League that, which it's still the first division in my eyes. Yep. And whichever way you look at it, and I don't want to feel. It is what it is, and we are what we're in now. But to have this interview with you now brings back lots of memories about the days we played every Saturday, like your life depended on it, for the fans, and the camaraderie between the players and the fans and the public was second to none. You was able to go to the pub and have a game of darts and game of dominoes and with the locals lads. And I loved all that, and I did that. I have to say I did that, and a lot of players did that. And I know that Chelsea players did it down the King's Road. When Alan used to tell me quite a lot who did it. But that's how it was generally. We were closer to the public, closer to the fans in them days than they possibly are now. But I loved every minute of it in my time, and things change, things go on, and that's what's happening. We're in this world of Premier League football that has changed. They've changed the game, I feel.
I think they have, and in my opinion, not for the better. I mean, brief. You look at England's next game against USA, and they're going to give Wayne Rooney his 120th cap. I mean, I don't want to talk about that really, because I want to talk about the 70s. But
I know,
that didn't happen. There was no brands back in the 70s. Okay, we had PG Tips. I mean, at Bristol City, we had the Chimpanzees Tea Party before Bristol City and West Ham United. There was loads of things like Coca-Cola. We had the brands. We had Match of the Day. Dick Emery come on. I used to have to go to bed and then wait till my sister went to sleep and come down and watch Match of the Day. You know, there was just an innocence about the 70s, Kenny, that there isn't today, and I'm still in love with those golden days.
I am as well. I mean, I don't want to, get the violin out or anything that I don't want to knock what's happening now. It is what it is, and we just get on with it. Yeah. But there's nothing wrong with talking about the 70s and the 80s. There's nothing wrong with that. I think it's important for the history of the game. And you talk about all incidents that happened in them days and who you met, and it was just a fantastic period. I mean, there was a lot of people out of work in them days, and there was not a lot of money being earned by lots and lots of people. But the enjoyment that they had on a Saturday, it meant so much to them. And going down to the ground and watching their team win, and I don't feel that as much as in them days as I did, now as I did in them days. But I know the passion's there because I've been on the bus, on the coach, the Tatters coach to watch Wolves, and the passion there is. I mean, it shocked me because I've never been with the fans before. I've always been out on the pitch, or I've been in the ground watching with my job in the director's box and having the privilege of all that. But to go with the fans, and I have to say, Gabby, everybody needs to go with them and listen and watch and get the same feeling. They're passionate about their team. They're passionate about the game. They're passionate about the results. And it opened my eyes greatly. And I've been to a couple of games with the boys, with the fans, to Villa last year, and I went to Derby in the pre-season friendly. And I'm in Wolverhampton in the middle of the town when they played Southampton and Burnley recently. It is alive again. I have to say, the Midlands is alive again from our side, from the Wolverhampton side. I'd love to see Birmingham, and I'd love to see Villa, and I'd love to see all, Forest, everybody in the Premier League like it was in the 70s. Because when the football club is being successful, the old town, the cities are successful, and everybody's smiling, having fun. But I think, having spent the time with these fans at these games, that passion and the commitment and the desire and everything that a fan is still there. Probably more so now than in the previous 10 years, particularly from the Wolves' point of view.
I think it's because you're starting to win again, and fans are enjoying it, and you do get that passion that comes back.
Well, you do, but they got beat 4-1 at Villa last year, and I was at that game, and I got on the coach, and you could hear the pin drop. And I did a Q&A with them on the coach, and I had to lift them up. I had to lift it. They were so down, but as a player, you come off the field, and we're upset, we're disappointed of losing, but then we get changed, you get in the car, and you go home. These fans are hurt badly. And not just at Wolves, but I think in every football club, all the fans feel the same. As long as they can deal with that and get on with it for the next game, which they do now, particularly at Wolves, because of the success they've had over the last 18 months, there is something happening special at Wolves at the moment, and everybody's really flying high with hope, and they know that they've got a club now that mean business, and they're quite confident that Wolves will go forward from now on.
Back to the 70s, we got some great movies that come out as well away from football. We got Star Wars that had come out. We got Grease, the movie that had come out. We got some pop stars that could sing real songs that we could hear the lyrics, Kenny, couldn't we?
Oh, no. Well, when they come on television, on radio on a Sunday morning, all the 50s or 60s or 70s come out, and me and my wife just start singing, and you know every word.
Yeah.
These new songs that come out now, I haven't got a clue what they are. I know the kind of rhythm and the tempo of the song, but I don't know any words. But the words come out regularly. We know them all. We know the 70s, the 60s, and the 70s. And yet we're here 2018, and you still remember them. Yeah. And the great periods. I mean, I could listen to any kind of music in them days, but I used to love the Led Zeppelins and all the the metal groups, all the heavy. It was great. I have a 1600 in. I'd open the window and put it want a cassette. It was a big double cassette player. It was blasted, and Meatloaf. Where I remember in the car with Andy Gray. We came off training at Castlecroft, and he had this 2.8 Capri, and he put this cassette in, and it was Meatloaf. And he opened the windows and he blasted it, and we got pulled over by a copper. And we just got a warning, but we had to turn the sound down. And those days was just wonderful, listening to the rock bands and anything that took my eye. I like Motown and stuff like that.
So you've got an eclectic taste then of music. You like the heavy, you like the rock, you like the metal, but you've also got that love of the tambourine as well. Because I don't think there's ever a bad song ever produced with a tambourine in it. Because I do love my soul music. Bill McGarry was a man of very few words. On your ventures of Europe, did he introduce you to the game of golf? Is that true? Absolutely right. Yeah, we. When he came here as the first manager, as a new manager, he was a good golfer. He played a 4 handicap, and but as we were in Europe, it was one way of him getting the lads out to play golf with him, rather than us going and enjoying the day of golf. So everybody who wanted to play golf or fancied a game of golf, he used to take us to Borders or Brockton, all around the Midlands, and. That's when I really first started to get involved with. Usually we played pitch and putt when I was in Bradford, but he got us involved in the game, and I loved it. And I used to hold the club like a baseball bat, just like I did when I played cricket, and hit the ball. I don't know, 100 yards left, and slice it straight back into the middle of the fairway. And he didn't like that because he was prim and proper and professional and stood up square and hit the ball straight down the middle. But my ball always seemed to go further than this. He could never beat me or some of the lads, not just me, but some of the lads. I remember once at Borders on the 18th green, and not to put in, beat him, shook me hands, and he said, "You don't have your hair cut by this time tomorrow." He said, "You're going to get a week's fine, a week's wages." I couldn't go in, and I had to get into the car and go to the barber's and have my hair cut. That's how strong he was about his game of golf. But that's what started and triggered my career of golf. Yeah, it was somewhere I could go onto the golf course and be completely away from everything. I wasn't a drinker. I didn't go in many pubs. I wasn't a betting man or all like that. I just wanted to go and play golf, and then I met my wife, and her father was a member of the golf club at Penn in Wolverhampton, and we went on from there, and I was a member at Penn for many, many years. What do you play off now, Ken?
I play off 2 now.
Right.
Jewelry isn't a gift you give just once. It's a way to remind your loved one of a beautiful moment every time they see it. Blue Nile can help you find the gift that says how you feel and says it beautifully, with expert guidance and a wide assortment of jewelry of the highest quality at the best price. Go to BlueNile.com and experience the convenience of shopping Blue Nile, the original online jeweler since 1999. That's BlueNile.com to find the perfect jewelry gift for any occasion. BlueNile.com.
When we feel stuck, it can be hard to picture what's possible in the new year. But sometimes a small change, like refreshing your dinner routine, can make a big difference in your day-to-day. Cook Unity makes it easy to reset your meal habits with a variety of vibrant, healthy meals crafted by award-winning chefs. The chefs you see on TV and in 5-star kitchens are the chefs who craft each small batch meal, and they're delivered directly to your door, ready to enjoy. There's no cooking required, and it's way healthier and cheaper than other delivery options. Experience the convenience of dishes made from local, in-season ingredients, delivered straight to your door. It's an effortless way to savor high-quality, chef-prepared meals while feeling good about what you eat. Take a step toward a fresh start with Cook Unity. Chef-crafted meals designed with you in mind. Go to cookunity.com/podcast or enter code podcast before checkout to get 50% off your first week. That's 50% off your first week at cookunity.com/podcast. I
did get to a stage where I played off scratch for about 10 years. But I met a great guy called Tony Weston at Penn Golf Club, who was a county player, and my first handicap was 16, so I partnered him, and I played with him for years and years and years. And I used to watch how he managed to get round the course, and how he played, and how he swung the club, and I learned a lot of my golf from him. So thank you, Tony, if you're listening. So yeah, and then my son became a professional golfer later in our lives, and so we all play golf. My wife got down to 11, and we play a lot of charity golf. We've raised a lot of money for charities over the years. As I say, it's one place we can go and enjoy ourselves where nobody can bother you. So yeah, I love the game.
I'm guessing in the Great Northwest you didn't take Mr. Hudson onto a golf course. Or
no,
take you?
I don't think Alan could play. He never mentioned it anyway whether he could. I think I did play out there actually. I did represent Seattle Sounders at one of the tournaments, and somebody called Keith Jackson. I think he was a big TV presenter or something over there. So they said, because you're a lower handicap, I think it was a 5 then, in 81, 82, and they sent me to play in this tournament representing Seattle Sounders, and I finished second, and I missed the green. Well, he wanted a green jacket out the Masters. He was a maroon jacket by 1 point, and I would love to have come back with that, but I did bring a nice cut glass bowl back from America with me, so it was a beautiful thing to win as well. But I wanted the maroon jacket more than anything, so I just missed out by a point. But I didn't know. I don't think Alan ever played golf. There was not much talk of him playing out there.
No, I must admit, when we talk, and we talk quite often, he's never mentioned golf. What was your time like out there? Because I mean, Al says to me, he says, Paul, I knew he was a good player because I played against him. Yeah. I didn't realise how good Kenny Hibbitt was until he come out and joined us in Seattle. He says he was some player.
Well, I felt the same. I hated playing against people like Alan because he was such a smoothie runner with the ball, glide past you. His brain was working overtime. He saw things very early. He should have had 100 caps for England, like a lot of players, like Oddle and that. There was a lot of great midfield players around in them days. But Alan, I used to admire him a lot. But I admired him even more in 82 when I went to Seattle, because I played with him. And wherever you were on the field with the ball on the pitch, you looked up and Alan was there. Alan wanted it off you. So if you were in a tight situation, Alan was there. He was always round the ball, always wanted the ball. I've never known a player want the ball as much. Willie Carr I played with a lot for 7 years, and he was a similar type of player, always round the ball. But Alan was a smooth running player with a great football brain, and a wonderful player to play with. And Stevie Davey was in midfield with us as well. So it was a nice trio of us. And it was a real privilege to play with him out there. I didn't realise how the level and the standard was great. It surprised me. It was pretty high. There's a lot of good players out there in the States. I remember joining them. They were third from bottom, I think, when Alan Hinton signed me. And there's only about 3,000 people watching us. And then suddenly I got there, and things started to change. I'm not saying it was me personally, but that's how the Americans fans saw it. We started to win games, and we ended up with nearly 30,000 watching us, and we ended up winning the league. And then I scored overtime goals against Fort Lauderdale in 2 games that took us to soccer ball to play New York Cosmos. So it went extremely well for me personally. But having players like Alan around you, and Daly and 1 or 2 of the other ones, and like Peter Ward played up front, and there were several of the English lads there, Roger Davis as well. We functioned really, really well. It was a great balance we had, and we was unlucky to lose 1-0 in the final, but it was an absolute pleasure and an honour to play over there. And my family came with me, and the kids had a great time because they weren't at school, and but we were treated really, really well. But it was a great 3.5 months, and we still talk about it this day. Yeah.
And that one goal that you scored was some goal, wasn't it? It was right outside the box. It was a right-footed strike.
Fort Lauderdale.
Oh, sorry, I think you lifted it with your right, didn't you?
I turned it. He came out. Yeah, the commentary. I've got a replay. Yeah, the goalkeeper. He came out to me at the edge of the box, and I took it on my right foot. Then I pulled it onto my left foot as a defender came in, and then volleyed it into the bottom corner. And the commentator said he got a piece of it, but it was too strong for him to keep it out, you know. And that was the overtime goal that took it to soccer ball. So the American fans just took to me so well. Coming back from Fort Lauderdale when I scored the overtime, when I scored the fourth goal, we beat them 4-3 to bring them back to Seattle. I got off the plane and I couldn't get to my family because the fans just poured in amongst you and the cameras and. I'd never experienced that before, and it was a terrific period, terrific time. But people like Alan that helped me along when I got out there, yeah,
and,
super.
And I can't let you go without talking about the great New York Cosmos, because I mean they were. I watched a film recently about them. Do you know when they signed Pele, they did not know who Pele was. Yeah. They had not got a clue. It was the geezer owned Atari. He owned Warner. He owned almost half of America. They sprayed the pitch, Kenny, right? Green. Pelly's come off the pitch, right? He said, I ain't playing anymore. I said, why? He said, I've got foot fungus. He said, no, we had to paint the pitch green for you, Pelly.
Well, unfortunately, I never got to play against him. He did play that game when I got to the final. Yeah. But what I did do, I met him the night before the banquet where we had dinner with the Cosmos and that, and Pele was there, and I was very fortunate to have a photograph taken with him. And we were looking at it. Only yesterday, my wife said, "Where's the Pele photograph?" Anyway, we found it because it's one that's in my book, and we found it, and he was terrific. But I had a tuxedo on that night, and we got measured for it. But the sleeve was halfway up my arm, and my leg, pant leg was halfway up my calf, and it didn't look very nice. But I met Pele with this on, and I felt awful. But I had a photograph taken with him, and that was one of the highlights of my life, I think. He was a great player.
I can never say his name. Giorgio Canaglia. Did he play in that game?
Giorgio Canaglia.
Canaglia.
He scored.
He's a nutter, isn't
he? He beat us 1-0. They beat us 1-0, and he got the goal. Yeah.
I mean,
Giorgio played in it.
You know when you was on about Derek Dugan was a character.
Yeah.
This bloke was just on a different level.
Oh, he was.
He was the most psychotic football player ever.
I didn't know him personally, but
he got Ken Furby the sack. He dropped him. He said, "You're sacked." Seriously. He run New York Cosmos. He did.
Well, I heard that, but I mean, I obviously.
Oh, he was some baby. He was, Ken.
You know what, Gabby? He had one shot on goal, and that was a winning goal. That's what he did. That's what he did well. Put the ball in the net. But you're right. I had heard stories about it, but
they've done this film. Nobody had a good word to say. He knew it as well. He was on there. He said, "No one's going to say anything nice about me." He's the only person in football history that tried to tell Pele what to do and didn't like playing with Pele.
No way.
I'm telling you. Oh, he was unbelievable. What a piece of work. He should write a book as well, I'm telling you.
It would be interesting, wouldn't it?
And this is the thing. I love talking. I love reading about players like that, characters of the game. Who was the biggest character that you met in the game of football?
Oh, I mean, there was several around. I mean, every team, every club had characters in their team and in the squad or in the club. Mm-hmm. It's very difficult for me to pick one out, Gabby. It really is. Characters depends which way you want to look at which kind of character we're looking at. Because I look at it this way. Every team had a hard man, and they were characters for me. Every team had hard men in their teams, and they were the ones that led the team forward. But Tommy Smith was a great character. You know, he can tackle you, he hurts you, he picks you up, he asks you if you're okay, and then he'll say, You'll say, yeah, I'm all right, Tommy. He'll say, right, because there's another one coming in a minute. There's another tackle coming in a minute. Things like that. But there's not one in particular that I could actually say to you now who was the biggest character in the game. I don't know.
If you could have a one-to-one with anyone, dead or alive, anybody that's ever walked the earth, who would you share a cup of tea with?
It won't be a footballer.
No? Anybody?
Jack Nicklaus.
Really?
I've always admired Jack Nicklaus. I think that he was a gentleman, a sportsman, fantastic player, always had his feet on the ground, and just made it, he let his game do the talking, he let his golf do the talking. But I'd love that. I'd love to sit across the table and have dinner with him sometime, yeah. And
another sport that you were brilliant at, cricket. Did you not play for Yorkshire?
I played for Yorkshire schoolboys, yeah, and my best mate was David Bairstow, and we were both asked to go to the nets, the Yorkshire nets, and David went and I didn't. I went the other way, and he was a big friend of mine at school, and I used to stay with him most Friday evenings. We played football in the morning, go and play cricket in the afternoon, and he was very sad when he took his own life years later, but it's great to see his son Johnny doing so well. I'd love to meet him and have a chat with him about his dad, but I've never got the opportunity. I went to Worcester this year to watch him play Yorkshire, hoping that Johnny would be there and maybe meet up, but unfortunately he didn't play because he'd been so busy with England. But yeah, I had about an average of 95 when I packed it up to play football. But I love my cricket. I played village cricket here in my local village, and it was lovely. I miss it now, and I still try and get the bat out. I've still got my first bat. It's a Gray Nichols Jeff Boycott bat, which I had. Where I paid a £5 for it in 65, I think, 1965, 66, something like that. Yeah, I love my cricket.
And Johnny Bairstow, he's out in Sri Lanka playing cricket for England, but he's injured at the moment because they tend to play football as a warm-up. You fell over the ball, hurt yourself. Mad, isn't it?
That's their warm-up. That's their warm-up before they play. Now he's out injured. I don't know how long he's out for, but yeah.
Mad,
there's several players, haven't they, been injured playing football? But they're so fanatical about it. They think they can play out there, and just but they're conditioned to play cricket, and not conditioned to play football. But it surprises me they allow that to happen because it's a contact sport. Well, they're playing the contact sport, but they're not very good at being able to tackle fairly. They fly in, they don't see the danger. I'm a bit surprised they use that.
Mind you, watching some of the performances, I'm wondering about the quality of some of the batting as well.
Well,
at times.
I know we're 7 down, aren't we? Or 8 down, are we? Or are we all out?
We often do that, don't we? Middle order collapse as well.
Yeah. We've got some great play. I mean, it's a difficult one. From the 2020s, the 50-50s, and then the 50 over. Quick crack bash ball up and then going to test matches. It's a different ball game altogether. The cricket needed the one dayers. It needed the 2020s. I think it's brought a lot of excitement now around the world, but it does have an effect on test cricket. And I think sometimes we struggle to stay in there. The boycotts of this world have gone, where you could stay in all day and the next day. It's a different ball game now, and of course cricket at that time with the 4-day games, county cricket is dialed out 3, and they've had to cut it because of trying to get people into and get excited about the game again. But I think it's caused a problem with the test cricket.
Seasons of My Life, the book is going really well. You sold out the first lot. You've got another a batch of books now. You're doing book signings here, there, and everywhere. Who come up with the title, and what was your favourite season of your life?
My wife came up with the title. She came up with the picture on the front. She said that emulates you. That's what you were about. And Seasons of Your Life is something that you should discuss because you want just a football. You did cricket and golf and all other sports, but it's all the seasons I had at Wolves, the 16 years that I spent there, plus other places that I spent time with. 5 years. It took me 4 years to write it, Gab. I asked to do one in 1990 when I was managing Walsall by Chris Smith, who I used to work with every day, who covered Walsall Football Club. And I used to have lots of chats with him over a coffee and tea over in my office. And he said, have you ever thought about writing a book? I said, no, I'm not interested. And then 5 years ago, I was approached again by Chris. And by this time now, I've got grandchildren. And I thought it's interesting. It would be interesting if I could put my life down on paper for my grandchildren and their children to read about what their great-granddad and grandfather did. And it was the right time. I said, okay, I'll do it. It's just the right time for me to do it. And that was the main reason, because I didn't know my own grandparents, my grandfathers anyway. I knew my grandmas, but nobody told me about my granddad. Either granddad, you know, my mother's father, or my dad's father. And I didn't want to leave them not knowing what their grandparent or granddad or great granddad did. And that's what instigated and then, so I got stuck into it. My wife, you know, she was supportive of it, and together and then Chris got a serious illness, and he had to pass it on to Tim Nash, who's been extremely fantastic with it. He's worked socks off, and between him and my wife put it together. I wrote it. Let's not get away with it. I wrote it, but they've put it down and they've polished it up, and they've worked extremely hard together. And I am really, really pleased with it that now my family, my grandparents, my grandson children and their children can read about what their great-granddad and great-granddad did. And that was the main reason. But the interest has been phenomenal. I have met so many lovely, I feel so humble with the comments they make, so many lovely people. When I've been doing my, the writing, the signing nights, and I've met some wonderful, wonderful fans. I didn't realise how much of an impact I had on their lives and supporting Wolves. But this has opened my eyes big time. As I say, I did the Swedish Wolves on Sunday, and they were grown-ups crying because they never thought they'd ever get to see and shake my hands and have a chat with me. And it was just, I brought tears to my eyes as well. So it's been very therapeutic. It's been fun. It's been hard work, and it's all out there now. And I'm so pleased with it, and the feedback has been terrific. So I'm quite happy about that.
And people, because when you say fans, you don't have to be a fan of Wolverhampton Wanderers to buy a book of a Wolverhampton Wanderers legend, Kenny Hibbitt. You can be a fan of any team. It's a book about a football player who was as good as there was in the 70s, about his life. It's at Wolverhampton Wanderers at the club shop, isn't it?
Yes,
and
it is.
Waterstones in Wolverhampton. Yes,
they've had their fourth lot delivered, and Wolves have had their third lot delivered, and it's just meeting. I've been in pubs with these people, and it's been fantastic, Gabby. It's been, I just can't believe what's, I didn't realise what an impact I had on a lot of these people. It's been crazy, but it's been enjoyable. I loved every minute of it.
I don't think you footballers really realise how much you mean to us fans, and from every Wolverhampton supporter. And I'm sure the football family wider. Can I thank you so much, Kenny, for what you gave us fans, what you're giving us now, and truly, you are second to no one, Kenny Hibbitt. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Gabby. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, Ken.
No problem. Pleasure.
Cheers, mate.
Have you heard about Brex? It's the world's smartest corporate card. Finance leaders love it because it's got powerful controls and rewards that help them make every dollar count. Here's why Brex cards are so smart. You can embed your expense policy inside the card. This lets you control employee spending before it even happens. Brex cards also automate manual expense tasks, so you're freed to focus on optimizing your company finances. Over 25,000 companies take every dollar further with Brex. Join them at brex.com/grow.
UTIs are the worst. I've been there. 1 year, I had 8 UTIs. If you get UTIs, then you understand how awful the cycle can be. I was taking all the precautions, and cranberry products, they just never worked for me. I was desperate for a way to be proactive. It was hard on me and on my husband.
It was tough to see her in pain, and I wanted to help.
I'm Jenna.
And I'm Spencer.
With Spencer's background in biochemistry
and our shared frustration when it came to UTIs, we were inspired to start Eucora.
At Eucora, we make innovative urinary tract supplements and UTI relief products. Our effective urinary tract supplements finally give you a way to be proactive.
Feel like you've tried everything? We get it. We have a money-back guarantee so you can try risk-free. If you're not happy, you'll get a full refund.
We're on a mission to help women get their lives back. Ready to join them?
Get 30% off Eucora when you go to eucora.com/audio. That's UQORA.com/audio.
And this week's episode is sponsored by The Gig in Acox Green, Birmingham. Our fantastic venue, bar and recording studio. Find them on all social media platforms. Just search for The Gig, Acox Green, Birmingham.